My question was about not responding to a condition, but more responding to the thoughts in your head. Like, I feel like I have a hard time trying to be unconditional when I have these negative beliefs that are like lying to me. Like, I used to think that they were true, so I would see evidence of them. I have this insecurity, or people don't like you. And now I have the clarity, but I don't have the alignment, and I feel like I struggle with that because...
Well, that's a contradiction in terms. Sometimes I have the clarity and sometimes I have alignment. The doubt and the clarity are not happening at the same time. So what feels like it is happening more often for you?
The thoughts that I don't want, that, I feel like I'm struggling in my head. Like, I try to segment in 10 to get, my energy clean. And then, these thoughts come up and I'm like, oh, here we go again.
But you are getting the cart before the horse just a little bit. And here's what we would do about it. So a thought has attraction power. And when you ponder it just for a little while, even as little as 17 seconds, another thought like it joins it. So without even being too aware that you're going there, you can get quite a bit of momentum on a thought going. Well, a thought that you really think often, that's what a belief is. It's just a thought that you continue to think. It's a thought that you give a lot of airtime to. But it's not just a specific thought about a specific person or a specific situation. It's all those thoughts that are similar in vibrational frequency. In other words, it's not just about this person who may not like you. When you get focused on a person who doesn't like you, suddenly all of the people that you've ever thought didn't like you start coming to your mind. There's a sort of vibrational library out there, and when you pick a subject and you activate a vibration, then law of attraction just starts downloading everything that's like it. It's like Pandora. Oh, you like that? Then you're really going to like this. Gonna like this too. You're really gonna like this. You're really gonna like this. Really gonna like this, or really not gonna like this. Law of attraction doesn't care if you like it or not. It's just active. So here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. So when you just understand that conceptually, and you don't make it personal, you don't say to yourself, I'm failing at this, or I'm not good at this. Instead, you give yourself the benefit of the doubt and you say, law of attraction is really a consistent thing. And when these thoughts start coming, oh, that's the wavelength that I was on. Something got me focused there, and I just stayed there long enough that it became stronger and stronger and stronger. We have always said, as Esther has been allowing us to find words through her mouth, that if you've got a vibration going on and you don't really know it, don't worry, it'll get stronger. And once it gets strong enough that you start feeling it, don't worry, it'll get stronger. And so what you're asking for is a way that you could focus somewhere other than where you are. Well, thing about that is the momentum is already underway. And so if a train's going 80 miles an hour that way, it's not all of a sudden going to go 80 miles an hour that way. In fact, it takes a while for that train to slow down. And so that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting those thoughts to slow down. Well, you know when the vibration of a thought really slows down? When you're meditating, or even better, when you're asleep. When you're asleep, the momentum subsides altogether. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't wake up tomorrow and go right back and activate it again, but you are less likely to than when you're in the middle of the thought, in the middle of the day. So your best plan of action is when you go to bed at night to say, tomorrow's going to be a whole new day, and tomorrow I'm going to be better at this than I am today, and I'm going to have more fun. In other words, just plant those intentions. And when you wake up, actually say to yourself, this is a new day and I have a new opportunity to begin some new beliefs, or to activate some different thoughts, or to focus in a different way. And if every morning that you wake up you say that, you will notice a big improvement in the thoughts that begin to come. We would like to say to you, well, just make a list of positive aspects. But you can't even do that when the momentum about negative aspects is there. So it really is about understanding vibration, understanding thought, and giving yourself the best advantage that you could give yourself, which is first thing in the morning. So now we want to hear more from you.
I think the thing that bothers me is when like the negative Pandora is playing. I used to believe that. Like I used to believe those thoughts and buy into that, and I now have the clarity to know that those thoughts were like lying to me. But I guess I feel like I'm afraid that by trying to clean up or giving attention to the negative Pandora, that I'm going to fall back into the old me and not the me, that the vibrational vortex version of me that I want to become.
Well, we think it's interesting that you're saying, I think those thoughts, and I'm aware enough to be able to say that's the old me, or those thoughts are lying to me. But there's something screwy even in that conversation, because the fact that the thought is active does mean that you do believe it. And saying that you don't believe it or calling it a lie doesn't make it go away, because the universe doesn't hear what you say. It's a lie. I don't believe that. The universe hears what you mean. And the fact that it keeps becoming active means that, in other words, a belief is just an active thought. So if it's an active thought, it is a belief to some degree. And calling an active thought a lie isn't accurate either. You see what we're getting at? So there's an easier way to approach this, because sorting out thoughts will make you nuts. So many books on so many subjects, so many opinions, so many people that have so many different opinions about so many different things. You'll never get it sorted out. But something is very simple, is your own guidance system. So just ask yourself, when you are aware that you are having some of those thoughts, what would you say the emotion is? When you're in the midst of saying that's a lie, what do you think the emotion of you is?
Well, also my question was, I feel
Wait,
like
what do you think the emotion is?
fear, frustration.
And fear, especially fear, more so than frustration, but they are the same, but fear is more so. What does fear indicate in the moment?
My inner being is looking at something differently than I am.
And that's why you're calling it a lie, because my inner being knows what really is, and I'm believing it differently. So when you feel that fear and you acknowledge it in that way, wait a minute, my inner being, source within me, is looking at this differently than I am. How might I see it more the way that source sees it? In that moment, you might be able to offer some words that give you some feeling of relief. And if you're able to do that, you have started the bridging of that belief into something that is more in harmony with what your inner being knows. So let's take a real situation and let's do some bridging of it. So,
well, the other thing was, I was going to say, sometimes I get nervous that
nervous is still guidance too.
I feel concerned that I train myself into like believing my fear, like rather than like, oh, this thought is not what your inner being sees it. Sometimes I'll think it's true automatically.
That psychobabble that you've picked up somewhere along your trail, listen to this, because the fact that you know that you're having fear and you know it is guidance makes that not possible. Say it again. Say what you said again. Sometimes I am concerned that
I train myself into trusting that my fears are true.
But the very fact that you feel fear, you now know, makes it different than that. That might have been true before you understood your guidance. That might have been true before you understood about vibration. That might have been true before you knew that your inner being was focused with you and had a different opinion. But now that can't be true. So what is true? What's that fear saying to you? What do you know for sure that that fear is saying to you?
That it's not true, it's a lie.
That it isn't the opinion of your inner being, but that it is the opinion of you. So it is true. You do believe it. It's just not serving you and you don't want to keep believing it. It's just a pattern of thought that you've got going. This thought that I don't want has momentum, and right now I can't stop it. Not in the way I've been approaching it. But I mean to stop giving it attention. I mean to slow it down. I mean to slow it down, which means I'm going to catch it in the earlier subtle stages. I'm going to catch it before it gets so out of hand. I'm going to be more aware of what the emotion of me is so that it doesn't get such a foothold. We know you heard all of that. So let's talk about something specific.
I guess like being unworthy of the relationship I want.
We have a question for you before you go there. Do you think that what you're hearing from us makes sense?
Yes.
And do you think that this explanation of the way the universe works, which makes sense, do you think you understand it?
No, yeah.
Yeah, we're sure of it. We know you understand it. So since you understand it, do you believe that your guidance system is going to be more effective for you than it's ever been before?
No, yes.
Because you know what it means. You know what emotions mean. Did you hear us when we talked about the vortex, the vibrational reality, where source is standing, calling you toward it? Can you feel that? Can you feel that source is calling you? And did you hear us when we said the only reason that we even call it a path of least resistance is because you are introducing resistance to the path? Do you think that as humans that you're ever going to be on a totally resistance-free path?
No.
And how do you think source feels about that? Great. We know that you're here to sort things out, and so we know there's plenty of resistance that you're sifting your way through, and we're still calling you, and you're hearing in the best way that you can hear. So isn't it all right for you to hold some beliefs that have resistance in them?
Because I wouldn't have clarity if I didn't.
Isn't it all right? And doesn't source still call you? Knowing clearly what beliefs you hold, source is still calling you through the maze of beliefs that you've set up into clarity. Don't you think it's time to give yourself a break? Don't you think it's time to stop judging yourself about your negative or bad feeling beliefs? Because source sure isn't saying, oh, that one's in a mess of bad beliefs. Source is still just calling you, calling you, calling you, calling you. And doesn't it feel good to come into clarity and come into clarity and come into clarity? Isn't it accurate to always say, I am where I am? Source doesn't say, you are where you are, and we know you want to be someplace different, but you got to get someplace different before we can help you. Source never says that. Source is calling you from wherever you are with the beliefs that you hold, calling you in to greater clarity. Don't you love knowing that? And so, don't you want to not call your beliefs a lie anymore? Just call them the beliefs that aren't serving me as well as some others might, and I'm working my way through some of those beliefs. Sometimes something will happen even with Esther where she will realize that she was unaware of a vibration until it became more. And then she's mad at herself that it became more, that she didn't know it earlier. And we say, what difference does it make? You are where you are. You are where you are. So the mantra that we would like you all to begin saying to yourself is, I really am doing the best that I can do from where I am, because not one of you certainly are not deliberately sabotaging yourself with negative beliefs. And sometimes a belief that served you at one point doesn't serve you at another point. That doesn't mean it was a bad belief. It means it was the path of least resistance from where you once were. Ooh. It was the path of least resistance from where you once were. But you want to hold yourself to these standards. If I believe this, I must always believe that. No, that belief is going to keep morphing because you keep evolving. Making a little bit of sense?
Yes.
Most important, we want you to be easy on yourself and give yourself a break more of the time and acknowledge that you're making enormous progress and that you're feeling better so much more of the time. And we know that when you've been born into an environment where well-meaning people have held you as their object of attention and have really needed you to be how they needed you to be in order for them to feel good, they trained you pretty good. And it's hard to break loose of the expectations of others. It's so interesting because they want you to please them, and that really is their strongest intention of encouragement. But it translates into disapproval when you don't please them, And then you begin to remember their disapproval almost like it's guidance. And that's where you start to develop those patterns of self-doubt and not self-worth.